Hi, my name is Jacob. Over the past week, I have been designing and printing a roof mount for our Starlink dish. So a few months ago, we got the Starlink dish and we've just been using the kickstand laying out on the grass. And our original plan was to mount it up on the roof. And I looked online for some mounts and they're around $160-ish. And honestly, I felt that was really steep. And since I recently got the Bambulab P1S, I figured why not print it myself. So I jumped into doing some design and research about like what filament would actually survive the Aussie weather and that wouldn't cost me a fortune. So I jumped onto MakerWorld once picking my filament and figured out, has anyone actually created the mounts I need? One, which is the mount between the Starlink dish and the pole, and then I need another one from the pole to the roof. And so I found one from the Starlink dish to the pole, which looked perfect and it printed brilliantly. So thank you to that. Next was actually fitting the mount to the roof itself, which I couldn't find any, so I actually had to go design my own in Fusion 360. So this is version 1. It looked pretty good in Fusion, simple base plate, shaft, rib, support, and I was feeling pretty confident. When it printed, the quality was actually pretty decent. It mounted up fine. How we ran into a few issues. So issue number 1 was our layer lines, which created a point where it could actually crack, and that was a major stress point. And the layer lines were in the direction of the major forces that will act upon it. So I ended up fixing that. Number 2 was the bolt holes. So the original holes I designed were exactly 8 mils for our 8 mil bolts, which we were using. Of course, they didn't fit, there was zero tolerance. So I had to use the heat gun to actually make them larger. So for version 2, I've increased the hole size to 9 mils with a nice flat section so the bolt heads can sit flush rather than digging into the round shaft itself. Another issue we found was, small thing was the shaft wasn't directly in the middle, so it was a bit further back, which can add a bit more lift to the plate itself. Not major, but a good thing to think about. And finally was the measurements. So when I created this base plate, so we've got this flat base plate, and on the version 1, this is version 2, but version 1 we had too large of a base plate with the holes not in the right positions to fit on the ribs. I didn't go and do that. So this is version 2. Overall, a cleaner and better design. If we look at it nice flat on, you'll see that this shaft is sitting relatively in the middle. Our 3 holes, easy to see on the back, 1, 2, 3. They are, between hole to hole is 160 mils with 1 in the middle to fit the middle rib. So this will go across 3 different ribs on the roof itself. Overall, I smoothed out the design. So those key parts when designing high parts is that you can't just have a sharp edge. You gotta make sure there's a fillet there, which I did do on the first design too. So, and finally was our flat edge here for our bolt heads, which will sit nice and flush rather than digging in onto this curved surface with 9 mils holes. So I'll talk kind of now into some of the issues with version 2, which is mainly just down to ASA and some issues I had. So number 1 for this version 2 that I printed was we had a layer shift. It seems like the whole body shrunk at some point and kind of delaminated itself. So that was one of our issues, and some either cracking on some of the layer lines too. I woke up this morning and I found that we had run out of filament with an hour and a half to go. So I had to run to JCar to grab some more filament. So that's kind of our major fixes. This is actually the second print I did of version 2. So our first print of version 2 ended up it completely failed. So a couple of hours in, it fell over and then it just kind of turned to sketty the whole night. So it's ran 8 or 9 hours, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. So this is version 2, so I made sure I added proper supports into the second version and instead ensuring that's on the 35-degree angle and all the supports needed, which it turned out perfectly. Anyway, that's been my little Starlink roof mount project. It's been a fun mix of design, testing, and a few failures along the way, but honestly, I've learned heaps through iterating, learning, and so much more. So Thanks for watching my first video. If you've got any tips for printing ASA or ideas for improving the design, I'd love to hear them. Yeah, catch you in the next one.